the geography of ancient Egypt and the Nile.
The geography of ancient Egypt and the Nile. Ancient Egypt is known for a lot of things such as the Great Pyramids, hieroglyphics, their gods, and much more. But for one of the first civilizations, how did it survive, grow, and strive? Could the answer be as simple as its geography? The Nile gave life to the Sahara Desert. Egypt is located in the northeast of Africa. It is one of the first civilizations in the world. Civilization developed along the Nile River after people started farming, but ancient Egypt is in the middle of the Sahara Desert. So, one of the most important things would be water. Thanks to the Nile, Egypt has an endless supply of water for irrigating crops, plumbing, transport, and drinking. That is why the Greeks referred to Egypt as the gift of the Nile. The Nile is the longest river in the world. It is 6,853 kilometers long. Every year, the Nile flooded in August, and when it went down, it left a very nutrient soil called silt, which was good for farming. The ancient Egyptians divided the year into 3 seasons, based on the cycles of the river Nile. The growing season, Peret, October to February. The harvesting season, Shemu, March to May. The flooding season, Akhet, June to September. 2/3 of farming in ancient Egypt took place by the Nile Delta. Ancient Egypt is divided into 2 regions, Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. Lower Egypt on the map is to the north, and Upper Egypt is to the south. Lower Egypt is where the Nile Delta is and meets the Mediterranean Sea. Upper Egypt is the long, narrow strip of Egypt. The east bank of the Nile was the land of the living, and the west the land of the dead. The most simple way to explain this is with the Ankh. The Ankh is essentially a map of Egypt. The Nile Delta is triangular shaped. The Nile splits into 2, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. The White Nile begins at Lake Victoria in Kenya. The Blue Nile begins at Lake Tana in Ethiopia. The Nile flows through 9 countries, which are Egypt, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Congo. The Nile's average discharge of water is 3.1 million liters of water. The ancient Egyptians believed that Sobek was the god of the Nile.
When we mention Egypt, 3 images come to mind: the pyramids, the desert, and that long and impressive river called the Nile. Sound familiar? But let us start by talking about that vast sea of sand known as the Sahara Desert. This place in the north of Africa is not an appealing place to live. However, thousands of years ago, there were abundant rains in the heart of Africa. Little by little, a flow of water was created, and gradually it started to grow. These waters became one of the largest rivers in the world, the Nile. Many people have settled near this river. But living by the Nile has its ups and downs. In the wet season, the Nile grows so much that all lands around it are flooded. But when the water retreats, the land is ideal for farming, since the riverbed has fertilized the surrounding soil.
Without the resources made available by the Nile River, the Egyptians would have never been able to do many of the things that they did. The Nile River Valley and the conditions it created were perhaps the greatest factor in allowing Egyptian civilization to flourish for so long and to flourish at all.
Thank you for watching.